Hi, mamas. It's Vanessa Lane, founder of Mom Solo Project, and your host of Too Good to Leave, Too Bad to Stay, making the best decision for your family. Today, in our interview series, we're going to be featuring Jude Walsh of Second Bloom Coaching. And Jude is a writer and a life coach dedicated to helping women not just survive after divorce, but thrive. She's also the author of Post-Divorce Bliss, Ending Us and Finding Me. She has numerous essays published in magazines and anthologies, including Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yeah, my favorite.
Yeah, that's a great one. So welcome, Jude. So glad to have you.
I am thrilled to be here. This is such a good idea.
Yeah, I get this is, I know all these mamas are in this position of maybe just beginning to think about it and trying to figure out obviously ultimately the best decision, but what's lying ahead. And one thing that was particularly difficult for me that I didn't really see coming, my whole thinking was like, I need to get out of this relationship. It's not a healthy model for my children. This is toxic. And we had tried other avenues, but I really hadn't thought like, what is it actually going to feel like, on a day-to-day basis. And I certainly hadn't given much thought to my children being away from me. I was just thinking of they're coming with me. And, in my case, in the beginning, I was able to do 60-40, but then it ended up being 50-50. And that just felt so unnatural and so uncomfortable. And then, I just was like in a heap on the floor, for many of those days, or trying to get out and be with friends and watch comedy. But it was really, really hard. And the other part of that was holidays. Somebody asked me, I moved out in February, and somebody asked me, but what are you doing for Easter? And I just sobbed because I hadn't thought about, I don't know. We always do this,
Yes,
so I'm so glad you're here to talk about these things that had I known are just so like almost seemingly insurmountable and so difficult because it feels so unnatural to be away from your children. But now I can also see the silver lining, and it's still tough, but there are ways of coping. And thank you for being here to talk about them.
Well, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. It's true. The holidays are like landmines. You may have said, okay, we have this many days and that many days, and you think you've got it all worked out, and then Christmas comes, and what sounded good when you were doing the divorce decree suddenly is just unbearable.
Yeah.
You just don't know how to make that useful.
Yeah. Yeah. My ex-husband used to like hold each child in alternating years to put the angel on the top of the tree. And I was like, who's going to do that? I can't lift them up, those kind of things, but we make do things. So how do you help let's talk first about the most immediate thing is the empty feeling times when your children are with their father. How do you help people cope with that?
Well, the first step there is to relax into the idea that they're okay. If you can feel that, not everybody can. Some moms are worried when their children are with their dad in another family, but if you're at the point where it's like, okay, I know they're over there, the feeling you have to cope with is your own feelings, but I don't have them. And my whole life has been being with my children, arranging their schedules. Everything revolves around our children. And it's a shift. And it helps if you can first consciously say, they're okay. I know where they are, and they're okay. And this is my reality. This isn't going to change. I'm going to have to learn how to deal with this. So then I'm a big believer in what is the one little thought that can make you feel a little bit better right now. And if you start with that one thought, then we can be on a path to creating a whole new thing for you while your kids are with their other parent. For example, just suppose it's just the weekend that you don't have the children, or the week you don't have the children, and it's your first time or two out of the box, and you sort of have that deer in the headlights thing, like, I have all this time, because children are amazingly time consuming and we love doing it, but then all of a sudden it's my time to fill. well, what is the one little thought that I could have that will make me feel better about that? First, I know they're okay, so I let that go. And then the one little thought might be, I can sit down right now and choose to do exactly what I want without having to plan for the children. Like if I want to go and meet a girlfriend for a cup of tea, I can do that. If I want to sit in this chair and journal, I can do that. If I'd like to binge watch Netflix, I can do that. You take that one tiny little step and you don't have to worry about the rest of the week or the rest of the day or anything. Just do that one thing, because what you're doing there is you're shifting your focus to you and what you want. Hard for moms. We're so wired to be taking care of everybody else. But once you make that little shift in your mind that first time, then it starts to get a little better each time. And I know one of the things I suggest to people their first time in aloneness is to sit down and brainstorm every single thing they wished they had time to do but didn't. And everything from the ridiculous to the sublime. You know, it might be something big like have a weekend alone at the spa, or it might be as small as I just like to walk around the block without somebody with me, or without, you know, having to think, oh, I've got to get back real fast because I left them doing their homework and is it done? You know, that just make that little shift. Once you've got yourself on that path, and as much as people get tired of hearing it, it really is about self-care. Mm-hmm. If when your children are away from you, you are taking the best care of yourself and being fully you, when they're back, they see a fully their mom. And because, you know, sometimes kids are worried about, well, what's mom going to do when I'm not there? And you want to walk the balance between, woohoo, you're gone, I'm having a party, which sometimes feels good too. And, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do without you while you're with your dad. So when they have that feeling that mom's going to miss me, but she's fine, she's really busy. And by the way, I see that it's okay to have your own life, that, you know, we can all make our own choices.
Yeah, I think that's so important for them to see us doing things for ourselves and taking care of ourselves and having fun and having our own friends. And a lot of us sort of lost sight of that when we were wives and moms in that house, in the original family. And they didn't see that. My children saw me as the person who is always doing a lot of work and kind of grumpy about it.
Yeah, we often have some things we need to forgive ourselves for.
Yeah, and I in the beginning, I was sort of, you know, you would tell other moms about like, oh, this is going to happen. And they'd say, oh, I'd kill for 3 days off a week. And I would say, I would, you know, if you had it, you wouldn't want it. But after some time and feeling into it and being okay with it and knowing that I can be almost 100% present with them when they're back, and I can do whatever I want when they're not there, is, you know, guilt-free, right? I mean, I'm doing the best thing for them is for me to take care of myself. So
yes, they have a happy, healthy mom who has interests of her own, mm-hmm. And models that, you know, this is, you know, what did you do while I was gone, mom? Oh, well, you know, I'm learning to cook some new things. I went to a cooking class, and guess what? You know, I made something and here it is for you. You know, it helps to sort of link back to the children, you know, so they know you were thinking about them while they were gone, but you could still just have this very full, rich life while they were gone. It's sometimes kids feel a little burdened about taking care of the parent who's not there, and they might not even recognize it. But when you can give them that impression, that honest feeling that, you know, mom's good, you know, I did a lot of things, and gee, I'm so glad you're back now, because now we're going to do things. Mm-hmm. Just let them know that they are okay and you are okay is critical. And then also giving yourself that okay, you know, allowing yourself to spend a little money on yourself. That's sometimes an issue when we're not with our children. You know, we said, oh, I won't go out for pizza because I'll want to do that with the kids. It's okay to do that with just you. You know, mm-hmm. It's okay. And once again, it's that incremental little shift toward taking care of yourself, because that's the biggest gift you can give your kids. The biggest gift, a happy, centered mama.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm not sure. We'll have to check, but I'm not sure that the audio is working perfectly. But hopefully, it will shift. Yeah. So what about? So do you have ideas for do you, aside from making a list of all the things that they haven't done, sort of a bucket list, right? Are there specific things that your moms put into those times?
Yeah, and let's talk specifically about the holidays, because they're sometimes the hardest part. For example, one of my favorite things is Valentine's Day. When you're newly single, Valentine's Day is not an easy time.
Mm-hmm.
And I created an alternative to Valentine's Day that I've shared with a lot of my clients, and they have embraced it with gusto. So I'll share that with your moms today. What happens on Valentine's Day? About 3 weeks before, every other commercial is about a diamond or flowers or a weekend trip, and it's all about couples. It's very coupley oriented. And I remember my first year, we weren't divorced, but we were separated. And I did not know what to do for Valentine's Day, and my son was not around. So I thought, I'm going to do something else. And somebody had just asked me, well, are you dating? And I said, I am. I'm dating me right now. I'm my date, because I'm trying to figure some things out. And it occurred to me that that's what we needed. We needed an alternative to Valentine's Day. So I invited 8 women to my house, who either were divorced, single, or had what we fondly called poopy husbands about Valentine's Day. The kind like, oh, it's Valentine's Day. And I invited them to my home, and I asked them to buy themselves whatever their heart desired and wrap it up and bring it. And usually when I would have friends over, I would do a lot of cooking. And I said, I'm not cooking. We're ordering pizza. I will provide pizza and chocolates and wine, but otherwise just come. So they came, and they all had their little boxes. And we decided, I asked them to tell me why they bought what they bought. Because I said, you choose your heart's desire, no limits, and why they deserved it. And we just went around the circle and did that. Vanessa, it was my best Valentine's Day ever. These women just startled me. The person I least thought who would be interested in the lingerie thing bought herself the most amazing lingerie and said, and I'm wearing it just for me. One gal bought herself a power drill. Can you see how people are shifting into outside the expectations of Valentine's Day? Another woman, she's one of the married ones, she'd been trying to talk her husband into remodeling their kitchen for, I don't know, years. And she came in and she had a bag, and out of this bag, she pulled paint chips and cupboard. She just started the project on her own. She said, I deserve a kitchen. I'm getting a kitchen. Another woman bought a series of videos for romantic movies that she just wanted to watch by herself. So what we did there was we created sort of an alternative to Valentine's Day, and it was a smash. I mean, I highly recommend this, especially when you're newly single. It's a whole lot of fun, and that has become a tradition. Even people who are not married, and sometimes we don't necessarily do it on Valentine's Day if people are doing Valentine things, but the whole idea was to create a new tradition, to shift into something that makes you feel good, that connects you with other people. In this case, it was all women, but it was nurturing and loving, and we had a blast.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know. Now I'm thinking, what would I buy myself, right?
Exactly.
What did you buy yourself?
I admitted I was the power drill girl.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny because my ex, he wasn't allowed power tools because the one time I let him do that, he injured himself. He caught his hand in a saw. And I grew up in a house where my dad wouldn't let me near any tools. And all of a sudden I was living alone with all kinds of repairs. And I thought, I need a drill. And one of my friends said, you need one of those drills that has all the different bits. I had no idea what she was talking about. I went to Home Depot and said, I'm newly single and I need a tool. And this is what and I had like a 1-hour tutorial. And I'm telling you, that was my first step into being tool girl.
Yeah, it's empowering to have your own drill.
It is. And, the next time I wanted to hang a picture, I just put that sucker right in the wall.
Yeah.
Not well, I admit. But, it was very, if you excuse the play on words, empowering for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The presents that day were amazing. They were amazing. It was just so much fun. It was like a little window into each woman's secret desires.
That's fantastic. So what about Christmas? Like Christmas is a huge one, right? So that is so big. I mean, whether you're religious or not, most people have a number of traditions really centered around family and extended family. And now your family's cut in half. Like for me, my in-laws just completely stopped talking to me. And, even though I was the one that wanted to stay, but I think that was just more comfortable for them. So I lost a huge part of my family that had been my family for 15 years. So.
And you lost all the traditions that are linked to being with that family. Mm-hmm. Vanessa, you're absolutely right. I have a client story about this that I really like, and I'll share this. They had the traditional agreement where, like, the children, or 2 children in this case, were with dad on Christmas Eve, and then they would switch with mom on Christmas Day, and they would alternate years. And the very first thing that happened was exactly what you're saying. When the children are with the other parent, they have those traditions. And then, where are you? Like, say it's Christmas Eve and, it's time to put the angel on the tree, or, whatever traditions you have. And they're doing it with someone else. First of all, what do you do with yourself? Where do you fit in? Because you don't fit in with your ex's family. And sometimes you don't want to be with your family because it makes you feel lonely. I mean, it sounds strange to say you would be with your family, but lonely, but it is, because probably everybody else in your family is still coupled up or doing their traditions.
Or I always feel like if I don't have my children, it's better now, but it's still hard for me to be around other people with children, because I feel like my children should be there.
Exactly. Yes, you have this ache inside. So she decided to do something else, and she fortunately could work this out with her partner. And then these kids were a little older. They were like 10 and 12, maybe a little bit older. But she and her ex decided that they would alternate Christmas completely. That for one Christmas, he would have the kids the whole time, the Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, that piece. And the next year she would do that. What that opened up was a space where she could go somewhere else. And she literally took herself somewhere else. She didn't go with her family. She didn't go to a girlfriend's house. She did things like went to a lodge and did hiking, something completely off the Christmas grid. She did a cycling thing. She just chose to do something else with that block of time. Once she just rented a lodge at a state park, and brought every book she wanted to read, and she just kind of forgot it was Christmas completely. Now, what happened there was her children got very interested in, well, what are you doing when we're not with you? And when she started to tell them, it switched around so that when they were with her, they wanted to do that. They wanted to do, well, Mom, can we do that hiking thing next Christmas? And it was like, well, yeah, but you won't see Grandma. Well, I can see Grandma later. She completely switched her tradition around Christmas. And I like to think gave those kids some kind of interesting ideas about what to do with a holiday. And I loved it. It was very successful. it was so rushed. You know, you're here and then you're here, and the kids felt like they were being shuffled around a lot. They didn't know what to do about their friends. Settling into it, I loved that solution. I thought that was just brilliant. You know, she started it from a point of self-care. I'm terribly lonely when the kids aren't here. I'm going to do something to nurture myself. And when she sat down and said, what do I really want? Well, I want my children to be happy at Christmas or whatever the holiday is, and I want to be happy. And the way we're doing it right now doesn't make me happy, and I don't think the kids are happy either. And they really weren't. They didn't like being moved back and forth that much. It was hard on them. So that's an idea of a really wonderful solution that took good care of her, created a whole new tradition, gave her children a new way of thinking, and actually her ex liked it better too. It was actually easier for him to not be doing the shuffling. And as they got to be teenagers, it worked even better.
Yeah, and it's nice to have uninterrupted time, especially.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it changed the way they plan their vacations together.
Yeah.
When they family trips, the kids had a lot more opinions because they'd been exposed to a lot more things.
Yeah. And I love that she made this like adventure part of their tradition.
Yes.
It was like, this is how we celebrate doing something that we love and having an adventure together.
Yes, exactly. And I'll give you another example. And this one is my story. In my home, our Christmas tree was filled with ornaments, and every single ornament meant something.
Mm-hmm.
There were the ones, the handmade children ones. There were ornaments from every trip. There were reflections of our different career milestones or graduations. The tree was like our history. And when we decorated the tree, we literally looked back over our lives. But there was one ornament that was always the first ornament on the tree. And for us, it was an ornament that my mother gave me the first year I was married. It was a horsehair pear about this big, rattiest looking thing you've ever seen. I couldn't understand why my mother was giving this to me. Well, she gave it to me because that was given to her by her mother for her first Christmas tree as a married woman. So you can see this is now third generation marriage representing the tree. It was like a landmine for me. The first year we were not together, I decorated the tree anyway, cried my way through the whole thing. It was, Vanessa, I don't know how I could see out of my eyes for days after that. It was just because every little thing was a memory. It was horrible. And I thought, I have to do better than this. This is just not working. So the following year, I decided to try and celebrate in a new way. So I decided to celebrate the solstice, which might not be something many people are interested in. It's traditionally around December 21st, but I felt I needed something else in December besides the Christmas landmine. So I invited, again, women to my house for Christmas. Instead of decorating a tree, I decorated my fireplace mantle with greenery, and I put the horsehair ornament there. Mm-hmm. So I kept that tradition, but I put it there. And that first year, and I've been doing this now for a long time, I asked people to come with a word to represent what they wanted to attract. Solstice is the longest night of the year. It's the darkest night. And I said, so we're going to say goodbye to the dark and we're going to turn toward the light. First of all, tell me what you want to leave in the darkness, and then bring a word that personifies for you what you want in the coming year. And we did a candlelight ceremony, and each person said their word, and we wrote them on seed pods, catalpa pods, which is like a long seed pod. I had them write it twice, once for them to take with them and once for me to keep so I could hold the intention of their word. The sharing among the women was incredible. Mm-hmm. They were so honest about what they wanted to leave, that was no longer serving them. And, if you're recently divorced, it might be your marriage. I'm going to leave my marriage behind, or, I'm going to leave my tendency to control people, or whatever. And then what your word represents. And I took those seed pods and arrange them on that mantle with the greenery. That replaced my tree that year. Mm-hmm. And every year I would add some sort of ornament to that represented a seed, a blossom of some sort, growth. And I now have women that call me weeks before saying, you are going to do that this year, aren't you? And I do. And it's a beautiful, beautiful, my son became very much a part of it. He always wanted to choose his word and talk to people. And it just became a beautiful substitute. And that took the heat off Christmas Day. Mm-hmm. I still don't have a Christmas tree, but I've used the holiday completely differently now. I have an open house on Christmas. I know which people don't have family in town or might be newly divorced or newly separated or lonely. And we have sort of an open house, and they just come and, and we celebrate.
Yeah, that is so lovely. I mean, it's beautiful and intentional, and maybe even more meaningful to you now than some of your past Christmases were. And I love that it's expansive, that you're including more people, you're widening your circle. It isn't just your family sometimes, which is lovely. It can be very lovely to be sort of, together and a little bit exclusive for this moment, like very intimate, but then also to just open it back up and let other people into the circle of celebration.
Exactly. My son and I too added in another Christmas tradition. Every Christmas we go to a movie. We get up and find out a lot of movies, oddly enough, open on Christmas. And at first I thought, well, that would be like the loneliest thing in the world. No, it's not. You wouldn't believe how many people are at the movies.
Well, we had Jewish friends growing up, and they were like, we're going to the movies. But I have other friends who were like, we went to church, we opened the presents, now we go to the movies.
Yeah, and it became a tradition, a new tradition. It's not something that was part of my growing up tradition about going to the movies on Christmas. Yeah. But now I'm always checking what's coming up on Christmas.
Well, and some really great ones are coming out, right? Right at the end, to get in that end of the year.
And once again, you're modeling for your child or children. There are lots of ways to be a family. There are lots of ways to celebrate. There's lots of ways to share time. And I am consciously choosing with you. We're doing this together. We're consciously choosing a way to celebrate that has meaning for us. And I also think it's pretty important to model that traditions change. Mm-hmm. That was part of the trauma for me. Well, it had to be that way because it was always that way. Well, no, it doesn't. A tradition is a tradition because we've decided it's a tradition. And that's what when I'm coaching people, I say, oh, what am I going to do? And they're so heartbroken. And I'm like, you get to choose now. What from that did you like and you want to keep? Mm-hmm. Keep that. What from that, one friend recently, a recently divorced woman, she was exhausting herself trying to cook for her children. Her children are all adults. But she always had Christmas dinner. And now she's divorced, so they were having Christmas dinner with her, and then they were having Christmas dinner with their dad. And we talked about it at great length. And finally I said, well, do you really have to cook? What if you just took them to Bob Evans, which is open on Christmas, or had Bob Evans deliver dinner? And she's like, oh my goodness, but I always cook. And I said, but do you have to?
Yeah.
And she said, well, I think the kids might be disappointed. I said, your children are adults. Why don't you just ask them? They were like so relieved. They finally ended up going out with their mother for dinner, actually taking her somewhere and not doing it on Christmas Day. On Christmas Day, they went with their dad, and their mom and I now spend some time together on Christmas Day. Win, win, win. Everybody, it's just as hard when your children are adults.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I think is so important that, the string that runs through all of this is not just creating new things, but sort of, that recognizing the loss, but then seeing, shifting our perspective and seeing the possibility and, the opportunity to create something new and continue to celebrate, right? Just find, the truly good things within, they're still there, right? Like the goodness of the holidays, the goodness of having alone time and being back together, those are all still there. They're just going to look different.
And once you do that, once you've created something new, it's a lot easier to talk about what was with fondness, because you're no longer mourning it. You can look back and say, oh, we used to do that. Wasn't that fun? That was just really great. Do you remember when you were 6 and the bicycle came in, or whatever story? You can tell all those stories with less heartache.
Yeah.
Because you can accept them as it, that was good. Those past Christmases or Valentine's Day or whatever, birthdays are another huge thing. Those things were good, and they were traditions, and we appreciated them. And and we're now appreciating something new.
Yeah.
You're teaching your children, you're giving them the gift of growing and flexibility. What a marvelous thing to do.
Yeah. And the resiliency, so many gifts, right? I mean, there are so many gifts hidden within, a tremendous loss, but this transformation shows our children so many amazing life lessons.
Yeah, I have a coaster that I'm very fond of. My friends say, oh no, there she is. She's living life by the coaster again. But it says, when nothing is certain, everything is possible.
Ah, that's amazing.
Isn't that good? I was, trying to figure something out one day, and I looked down, and that was the coaster and I was using, and I thought, well, Jude, there's the answer. Yes, at this moment, nothing is certain. And that means everything is possible. It's all out there now.
Yeah.
And that's another little tip. Instead of saying but, say and.
Yes.
It's a little minor language shift, but it's very powerful. Like, the children are with their dad, but that means I'm all alone. Or the children are with their dad, and I now have some time to create whatever I choose. And you know what? If at that moment you want to stay home and cry the first time, it's okay.
Definitely.
It's totally okay. Allow yourself to let all those feelings out. And it's actually better to let those out when you are by yourself, because nobody likes to do the cry ugly in a crowd, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the other, silver lining, I guess, is that self-care piece of giving yourself time to grieve. And, it's not healthy to do all that in front of your children. I mean, it's okay for them to see you sad, sure. But when you really need to get it out, you do have those times when you have alone time, and you can do that, or have a friend come over and listen to you cry. And
exactly. We don't want to put our children, or we try not to put our children in the position of comforting us about the divorce, because, boy, that's just not their burden. They have enough to change on their own. It's okay to be sad and to let them know you're sad, but to let them know that mom is working on this. I am sad, and it's going to take me a while, but I'm going to be fine, and I am here for you still.
Yeah, I always remind them. I mean, and it took so long, and then, or something will pop up, right? Like a holiday, like I don't know, and I got an invitation to a wedding, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm going by myself, that kind of thing. And then it's a wedding. Those kind of things, all of a sudden, it sort of comes crashing back onto you again, and you need time to ride that out, and that's okay. Everyone grieves in their own way, and it isn't a quick process, especially if you've been in a relationship for a long time.
I found with weddings, which I found very triggering, because when I said my vows, I meant them. And my partner didn't, clearly, or we wouldn't be divorced. But it was so triggering for me to hear wedding vows. Just, ooh, I wanted to jump up and say, I don't know that you can believe that. Or I'd say to myself, why didn't that work for me? It was just like whiplash emotion. My solution to that was, I don't go to the wedding. I only go to the reception. I could deal with the toast. They were fine.
Yeah.
But the vows were so triggering for me. I simply did not want to go. That was self-care for me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go there because it was too triggering, too painful. And I'm fine now, by the way. I mean, it didn't last forever, but
Yeah.
I allow myself to just say, I will be there for the reception, but I won't be there for the wedding.
Yeah. And good friends will understand that.
Well, and I don't offer explanations.
Mm.
It's just, I won't be there for the wedding, but I am coming to the reception.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I hadn't thought of it. Yeah. Luckily I was only invited after a year and a half. So I had time to sort of, but I don't know that I probably just would have sent a gift and,
you had a little time to process and heal.
Yeah.
The other thing that might be good for us to talk about, because we talked about triggers, is you can think you've got this all figured out and you're good. You're like, I'm divorced. It's all fine. You may even be in another relationship at this point. And one day something will happen that throws you back into regret. It may be something around the children. It may be something, you don't even know what it is. But it's, I believe, really, really important to just sit with that and let yourself grieve, because grief comes in waves. It doesn't mean you haven't healed. It doesn't mean that the relationship you might be in now isn't good and you don't, truly love that person. It doesn't mean anything except that your marriage was very important to you and it hurts that it's not there.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. It's just a little wave of grief. Don't judge yourself. Don't think it means you're not healed or that you left something undone. It's none of those things. It's just that was really important to you. It's a big part of your life. And you've just had a reminder about it not being there, and just sit with it and be with it. Give yourself some grace, a little extra care.
Yeah, I'm so glad we had time to talk about these things that are, definitely challenges that every mother is going to face, to varying degrees, of course, but they are really intense and they definitely come up, especially in the first months and years of separation and divorce. So thanks for being with us to discuss those today. And I would love to hear what you have to offer our audience. Yes. and where they can find your book.
Yeah, my book is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, all of the outlets. But I have left a link with you. It's my website with Mom Solo Project at the end, and I will send them a PDF that includes, it's about the holidays, but it includes 7 things to do to prepare for your first holiday, including some phrases to use. Like how to say no to some things, how to respond to nosy Parkers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what happened? Really?
Yeah, we'll definitely include that.
So I have a list of some ways to handle that first holiday, and what to say to people.
Excellent. I think I can use that too. Great. Well, thanks again, Jude. It was lovely talking to you today.
Lovely to be with you. And I'm very, very much interested in listening to the rest of the interviews. I think this is a tremendous idea, Vanessa. Thank you for doing it.
Oh, thank you for being a part of it.
You're welcome. And with regard to my book, I will say this. It's a pocket-sized book. And I wrote down everything I wished someone had helped me with. Literally, it's like having a little friend in your pocket. And that's all I want for people, is to get through it a little easier than I did.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And thank you. I hope I see you again.
Yes.